Welcome back, Fire Tribe. Oh, man.
That was an aggressive one.
Let's go, baby.
We're going into Game Week 34. We want to give you our picks. Earlier in the week, we used our free hit chip. So if you go back and watch that episode, you'll know a lot of what we're going to say today because a lot of it's based on who we just chose for our free hit. But how are you two doing?
I'm good.
I'm still great.
Still great.
Still great.
I'm ready. Dave's going to live off of that Man U win until next season.
Until we lose to Bilbao.
That's a historic win, and you're never going to forget the moment Harry Maguire put that in.
Oh, I scared my fiance, and she was 2 floors above me in our house. She thought I just hurt myself or someone was breaking in. No, just me.
That's awesome.
Yelling like an idiot in the middle of the day.
Harry Maguire just bringing you to tears in a good way for once.
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Is this video going out Friday?
This video will be out Friday. If you're watching, it's Friday.
I love
How
putting
are you
out
from the future?
Good content for Friday freaks.
Friday freaks. Yeah. So going into Game Week 34, there's some blanks. We have Villa's blanking, Arsenal's blanking, City's blanking, Crystal Palace is blanking. Those 4 squads are blanking. There are a lot of good players in those 4 squads, obviously. So people are going to have a lot to do. Most people are either going to wild card, they're going to free hit like us, or they're going to have to use up some free transfers. But yeah, we're going to give you the players that we like outside of those blanks.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just get right into it. No transfers this week. We are recording this before the double game weeks are over, so we have no transfer news to talk about. If we were guessing, I got to think a lot of Newcastle guys are going to be on that list.
It's a lot of the outs all the outs are just going to be people that are blanking.
And all the ins are going to be the hottest teams, which again is going to be a lot of Newcastle. So
everyone that plays Leicester, Ipswich,
Newcastle.
Or Southampton.
yeah, that's fair points. Wolves is going to have some.
Sure, and Bumo's going to be coming back in.
Fulham's going to have one, and Bumo had a great week, so you can assume those are going to be most of the ins. I don't think there's going to be a lot of craziness. But let's just get it started. So, I'm going to start from the back with the goalies. 3 guys I want to talk about going off of what we just said with some of these teams who have easy matchups. If you're not someone who wants to play the top tier goalies, now Raya's blanking, so he's not even playing, but Allison sells if you're not someone who wants to get one of those top tier guys. There are 3 guys I want to throw out there that 2 of them I think are really, really good options. One of them's a little more risky, but you probably get a better differential by the time transfers happen. So first one, and the one I like the most, I think we probably all agree with this, is Pope from Newcastle. He is 4.9 million, so fairly cheap. He's 5.7% owned as of now. Guarantee that's going to go up by the end of the week. He's going to be very owned. They have a matchup against Ipswich at home. This season, Newcastle has 11 shutouts. We talked about this in our previous video. That's 4th in the EPL, which I didn't realize that they were doing so well defensively. And they have 3 shutouts in their last 6 games, whereas Ipswich has been shut out 10 times, including the last time these 2 teams played. Newcastle beat them 4-0, I believe. So Pope is my number 1 goalie this week. What? Oh, by the way, if you hear anything, Phil's cat Nori is visiting us today.
We're gonna do a
she's gonna be part of the stream.
The pod mascot.
We're gonna introduce her to the
absolutely
to the crew, and then we're gonna send her on her.
Absolutely. She always sits at the door. She's always scratching, wanting to get in, and we let her in today.
This is Fireside Nori, everyone.
Fireside Nori. You got any picks, Nori? Any picks for us this week?
Picks?
No.
Maybe
everyone who Dave says.
Maybe one day we bring her in and put 2 player faces. Whoever she knocks over.
Crawls over.
Yeah.
We train her to do what that dog does with the basketballs down the stairs. You ever seen those? Shoots it into one of the baskets. Just train her to do that.
Bye, Nori.
All right, see you, Nori.
Now I'm sad.
Apologies for that interruption, but a little animal love's always good.
So
back to you.
Back to Pope. He's the number 1 guy I got this week. If you're trying to be a little different. He'll be good to also pair with Shar, who a lot of people are going to look to get, Livermento, who a lot of people are going to look to get, maybe Burn, any of those Newcastle defenders. Take your pick, the one you want the most. It could be a nice pair because there's a good chance of a shutout. So I think I love him the most. Second, Jose Sa. The only worry with him, I'll get it right off the bat. He does have a knock, 75% chance of playing, though. He is the Wolves goalie, 3.2% owned. Matchup with the worst offense in the EPL. Don't let that Brighton game fool you, because Leicester is still terrible. But Wolves at home, on a tear, 5 straight wins, 6 unbeaten. So they just shut out Man U. Leicester...
You didn't have to say that.
I had to say it.
You didn't have to say that.
Wolves have
You didn't
7
have to say
shutouts
that.
on the season.
have to say it.
Leicester's
You
been
said
shut. You know how many times Leicester's been shut out, by the way? Take a guess.
Several.
Take a guess. Give me a number.
15.
What about you?
14.
It's 15. You guys are good. They've been shut out 15 times in the season, so they're getting shut out.
almost
Like,
half.
It's 44%.
Yeah.
They've been shut out 44% of games. Wolves
Freaking
gets a
donkeys.
shutout about 21% of games. So I like this one as well. You can also pair him with one of the best defensive picks, one of the hottest defensive picks in FPL right now, Aït-Nouri. He's on fire. He's only second to Shar over the last 5 weeks in points. He's pretty unbelievable. We'll talk about him in a little bit, so I don't want to get too far into him. But that's the second one I like. And then third, if you want to be really different, I think by the time transfers happen, this third guy is going to be less owned than those two, is Bernard Leno. He is the most expensive, $5 million. Plays for Fulham. He is 3.6% owned, but he is the most risky. Fulham only has 5 shutouts this season. They haven't had a shutout in 5 weeks, but Southampton has been shut out 13 times. This game is away, though. The other 2 are home. You could pair him up with a guy like Robinson, who we know is still pretty good, 10 assists in the season. But this one's really trying to go outside the box. I think the other 2 are better options. This guy is a little more risky. What say you guys? If you had to pick between those 3, I need to pick the one that you would use this week. Who are you going with?
I would pick Pope.
Nicholas.
Saw is, if you want Saw, you just obviously have to pay attention to, whatever they say in their press conferences after he got hurt in warm-ups. But, yeah, I think Pope's a pretty straightforward pick this week.
I agree.
You'd go with?
I think Saw's the only reason you would go with him is, one, if he's healthy, and 2, if you're tripling up with Newcastle in different positions and you can't get a goalie too, then he's a great alternative. But Pope should be your numero uno target.
But something to pay attention to, I think we all agree Pope is, if you're not going with those top guys, Pope's the guy. But just pay attention. We're getting to the end of the season. Being a little different, getting the differential picks is more important than ever. So as the week goes on, look at the ownership. Pope's going to go up. Sa's going to be a little behind him. So maybe you get sneaky and you get Jose Sa. Just something to think about. But we are going to move on to the guy that I said...
Rayan Aït-Nouri?
Ran, which
Ran.
I just learned is his nickname, Ran. So, Dave.
A silly goose.
I'm a silly goose. Ran, go for it.
Yeah, you did a good job of outlining it. They play Leicester, who are pretty bad at scoring goals. On Wolves' unbeaten run here, their last 6 games, over that span, he is far and away number 1 in expected assists at 1.97. He's number 1 in XFPL. As Sean said, he's second in points, only to Shar of Newcastle. Yeah, he had that hot run earlier in the season where he was pretty involved attacking-wise, and he had a pretty long down spell in the middle. But
Some red cards.
Yeah, also a red card. But I think he's back in form now, along with, like we said, Wolves as a team. So he's probably my favorite option for your back line.
Yeah, and something else to mention on him. I mean, you mentioned all the gaudy stats he has. He's really good. He's tied for 3rd amongst defenders in assists this season with 6. He's tied for 2nd in goals with 4. And he's 12th with 109 points. But when you look at the guys that are ahead of him in points, only 2 of those guys, in Munoz and Kirkes, play for teams that aren't top 5 in the EPL. He's playing for the 16th ranked team in the EPL. It's pretty impressive that he has 109 points off that.
Give him the shutouts that, the defenders on the top teams get.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think, to your point, Dave, he's going to be the top defensive option of the week this week. I don't think there's any question about that. So we're not breaking any crazy news, but in case you didn't already know that, he is a stud. Let's go to a guy that's a little more unknown. Not unknown, but less owned, and probably won't be super owned, I would think. by the end of the transfer window. Phil, tell us about Iwobi.
Mr. Alex himself. So he's 5.2% owned. Maybe a few more people are going to pick him up because they do play Southampton. So I'm sure Fulham assets are on the block to transfer in.
Yeah.
But I think Iwobi's that classic guy that throughout the season, if you owned him at the right time, he probably made your team like really propel you in the standings because he's top 10 in terms of FPL points for the entire season with the likes of Bowen, Kluivert, Fernandez, Diaz, Palmer, and Bumo, Salah above him for midfielders. So that's pretty good for a guy that's always been in that 5 million range, and he has had those great spell of games, and then he has had quiet time. He's probably not been consistent, which is his only downfall, but again, Fulham as a team hasn't been consistent either, so I just really like him as that differential pick for this week based on his matchup. And, he had over the last 3 games, he has 3 returns. He had a goal and assist a couple game weeks ago, and then he had a goal last week. So he feels like he's in that stretch of the season where he's in form again. So I just think for his price tag, his matchup, and then just how he's been the entire season, he's an interesting option to add to your team.
Yeah, he is the same amount of points as Morgan Rogers in almost the same amount of minutes, and I would not have guessed that.
And people look at Morgan Rogers like the next coming of...
Yeah.
One behind Bowen, a couple behind Kluivert. So if those guys were playing Southampton, you're like, oh, this is an amazing matchup. Yeah. So that's why I think Iwobi's going to be a fun one to have.
I mean, when you watch him, he's just unfortunately been on that... I mean, not unfortunately, right? He's having a really good season. I just think it's not getting noticed because there's a lot of times when you watch Fulham where he's doing the Semenyo Eze act, where he's just getting in the dangerous zones, getting the chances, and it's just like, how did you miss that? How did you miss that, right? So I think people maybe got a little frustrated. A lot of people moved off him, but to your point, like, that's a lot of points.
A lot of points.
He's doing his thing, and like you said, 5.5% owned. I'm sure it'll go up a little bit knowing the matchup, but I don't foresee him getting above 10%, too much above 10%. I just don't think people are going to be too in on Fulham this week. So I'm a fan of that one, Phil. I'm a fan of that one. I'm glad you said that one, man. It's really good for you.
Welcome to the FPL show, baby.
All right. Next, we have a couple, I like to say forgotten souls, because I just feel like we ourselves and no one really out there that I watch talks too much about these guys, or they weren't previous to the past week. One of those guys being Jared Bowen, and the other guy being Danny Welbeck.
Yeah.
And Danny Welbeck is going to be on the radar because his teammate just got suspended.
3 games.
3 games. Jared Bowen is going to be on the radar again. He's been good all season, but he did just score again. He is a midfielder playing forward, which is really nice to have. That's a big win in FPL. But Dave, I'm going to let you give some of the background on why you're loving these guys this week.
Yeah, I mean, on Welbeck, João Pedro is suspended for 3 games. Welbeck's got 2 goals in 3 games since he came back from injury. They played Brentford, who aren't the best defensive team. So not much analysis behind other than that for Danny Welbeck. He's only 6% owned as well. There are some other good forward options this week, so I don't expect his ownership to go up a ton. He's also got they do play Liverpool in Gameweek 37, but he's got 3 pretty nice matchups remaining on his schedule till the end of the year. And Jared Bowen is someone that I feel like I recommend Jared Bowen like every week. Yeah. But for him, they play Brighton, who we've mentioned, like all of their defenders are hurt. They've given up, I think it's 13 goals in their last 5 games, and at least 2 goals in every one of those games.
4 healthy defenders right now.
Yeah. And so, like, if West Ham are going to score multiple goals, I think the chances of Jared Bowen getting one of them is pretty good. And I think he's only like 8% owned, if I'm not mistaken.
That one I do think will see a pretty big rise in. I think a lot of people are going to be...
Yeah, he's 8% owned.
Yeah, people are going to be in on him. But, if you had both these guys, Welbeck, Bowen, both scored last week, if you're picking between the two, let's say picking between the two just for this week and forget about what happens going forward this week, which one of those two do you want on your team?
Bowen.
Can I get that was very straightforward. You guys didn't have any trouble.
We timed that pretty well, too.
That was nice.
Why? Why are you so in on Bowen over Welbeck,
I think-
knowing that João Pedro's out?
I mean, not to repeat everything we just said, but I just think Bowen's a better player.
Yeah.
And
You don't think Welbeck being the lone, as Dave would say, the only show in town?
I don't know if he's the only show in town.
Thomas
But-
there, but in the midfield.
Estupinion.
I'm just playing devil's advocate, just trying to get some hard reasoning here.
I think Bowen's the smart play. Welbeck is that kind of risky play. So,
I respect that.
and we've talked about Bowen to your point every single week. We just haven't been able to fit him in, but
Yeah.
he's been really good and fun to watch.
He's flown under the radar, I feel like, a bit.
He's on a streak of on and off, which doesn't mean anything. But if you look at his pattern since game week 27,
Yeah.
return, no return, return, no return, return, no return. He just had a return. We're gonna
He
get the no
texted
return.
me. He said, "I'm doing double returns."
Woo-hoo-hoo,
He's
saucy.
also, like, other than Salah and maybe Saka, even though he's blanking, like, a lot of the higher price guys you're just not using. Like, you're probably not using Palmer, Son, Kevin De Bruyne, Foden, Martin Odegaard. So, like, he falls at a nice price. Like, he's right in that same range as, like, Mbumo and Luis Diaz. So, yeah, I like him for this week, like I just said, and his schedule the rest of the year is really good, too.
Yeah. All right, I think that's fair. I completely agree with you both. I would rather have Jared Bowen this week, but to your point, Phil, I do think Danny Welbeck is going to be a nice differential by the time transfers come in if you're trying to be different and maybe win some leagues as we enter the end of the season. But Dave, you just mentioned somebody that I want to talk about, and I feel like we talk about it, it's almost turning into Palmer. Not as bad as Palmer, but the conversation continues to come up, and it's going to continue to come up as the season ends. We got to talk about Salah.
Fine.
Now,
Yeah, the Egyptian cringe now.
the Egyptian cringe. The only reason that no one's going to move off Salah, most likely, is because Haaland is out, Palmer is out, Foden, KDB, like, you don't want them. Well, Palmer's not out, but you don't want them, I guess is my point. Most of these high-level paying guys outside of Isak, high-level money guys, they're just not guys you want. So if you move off Salah, you're going to leave like 10 million on your bench. Maybe you want to do that. But he has been down recently. And I'm wondering, from your guys' opinion, stats are stats, math is math. But there's an emotional part, right? There's a feeling part of this game. So when you look at the team, a team that has no trophies to win, except for the EPL, which is all but locked up, when you look at a guy who has his record, when you look at a guy who just got his bag, got his money, do you think that mentally the pedal comes off the metal for him? Pedal comes off the metal. What the heck? The metal comes off. What is that saying? Pedal to the metal. So pedal comes off the metal?
No.
Foot comes off the pedal?
Yeah.
How about let's
it's
try,
definitely that.
Let's try. Do you think the foot could come off the pedal for Salah to end the season? he has one return in his last 4 games.
Goodness gracious.
Would you guys continue to keep him on your team without any question? Or would you think about moving off him?
Philip?
I mean, at 71% owned, he is a differential. So
Yeah.
if you want to win your league,
The other 29% aren't playing, I don't think. Like their teams are dead.
Or it's my team.
No, I mean, Everton, you always knew that was going to be a tough matchup. Everton always plays them super close. So I'm really just looking
Leicester too, though. That's a
at
tough
Leicester
matchup.
too. I'm looking at 2 games where I expected him to return where he didn't. So I know, Dave, you might go into it a bit, but it's still hard to not bet on him, especially when they're trying to win the league title. They play against the Spurs, so it is a favorable matchup. So, Sean, to your point, I don't think he's a lock anymore. I don't think you should just captain him because he's definitely not in form
There are no
like
easy
he used
matchups
to.
left either. Brighton now, but
But I think it would also be silly not to have him in your lineup, especially because how the heck do you fill it up with other players? Like, you're just wasting money at that point.
Yeah. No, Phil said it. Like, if you don't have him, what are you doing with that 13 million? I don't think there's enough.
throw it around the defense, maybe get some high class defenders.
And you could, but
I don't think that's worth it.
No.
In this run that he's kind of disappointed since game week 28, and that's that same time period where Harvey Barnes has kind of gone bonkers.
Javi.
Since game week 28, Salah is still number 1 in expected goals among midfielders by over a goal. Over a goal more than Barnes.
Mm-hmm.
He's number 1 in XFPL. So
two
he's
clean sheets.
he's still
It's not really. It's not really him, but okay.
He's still, he's still getting into good positions offensively, like he has been. I just think if you've rode with him this long, you're not. I don't see any reason to hop off the train. And like Phil said, they can win the title at home this week. So yeah. I still like him this week.
All right. Moral of the story from the Fireside boys is just keep doing what you're doing. I think because if you move off Salah and he does have a pop-off game, you just lost out where 70% of people just got points. So it's one of those guys where you probably want to have him just to make sure. Everyone has him anyways. So if he blanks, it doesn't hurt too much. But if he does well and you don't have him, that's going to feel bad.
Find your differential somewhere else.
I think it's like...
Thank you. Find your differential elsewhere.
I think if like Saka, Foden, De Bruyne, Palmer, Son, like if any of these guys were worth it because they're the expensive midfielders, I think you can make more of an argument like, yeah, pivot to Saka or Palmer or something. But you don't really want any of those guys right now.
Come game week 35, it might be a different story. If Salah blanks this next week and Saka, I mean, obviously Arsenal's going to focus on the Champions League, but if you feel like Saka's going to still play in the league, then maybe Saka is that potential.
Yeah, it might be different in a couple weeks.
Shift,
yeah.
But yeah.
All right. No, that's a good conversation. I want to keep having that conversation every week.
Let's do it then.
I just feel like people aren't thinking about it, and that's fine. But at some point, something's got to give if you're going to continue to, not
we
put points
can
on the board.
keep doing this beyond this week.
We can't keep doing it.
No, I'm saying we can.
We can't.
We can't.
We can't. Are you saying can't or can?
Pan.
Can't. Pan.
Pan.
Frog protection. Frog protection.
I think we're saying the same thing.
We're saying the same thing. All right. We're going back to another conversation that we had last week because it is definitely still relevant. It might be more relevant this week, is the Newcastle midfield. It's going to be a massive topic for people this week with all the blanks happening and Newcastle being on such a good run. They have 3 guys in the midfield. They're in a pretty good run. I mean, FPL-wise.
Yeah.
They're on fire.
Yeah.
They're on fire, FPL-wise. They have 3 guys in the midfield that we need to talk about. Harvey Barnes has been a freaking godsend for that team. I don't want to ever say good that someone got hurt, but once Gordon got hurt, I think they found a little spark there. So they got Harvey, they got Murphy, and then they have Gordon. Question is, let's start with this. If you're buying one of those 3 this week, who are you buying? Don't tell me why. I just want to know who you would buy of those 3 to put on your team.
Harvey Barnes.
Okay, Phil. Murphy. Perfect. That opens up a great discussion. So I'll start, and then I'll pass it over to you guys. I think the reason this worked out perfectly that they went in a different direction is because when you look at this team, Harvey Barnes didn't even play until Gordon got hurt. Well, Gordon is back, and Harvey Barnes is still on fire, and he's still playing, but he is the one coming out for Gordon in those late minutes. Murphy is staying on the field, but Newcastle has an easy game, so what if they go up 3-0? Do they all come off the field, right? What if Eddie Howe says, listen, I just want to mix it up a little bit. Gordon, you're getting in this game. Let's give Harvey a break, or let's give Murphy a break. It's very unknown. But why did you guys go with your answer? Phil, why did you go with Murphy over Barnes?
I just like Murphy. He seems like a cute little funny guy.
Get a beer with him, maybe? Get a pint?
No, I think he's been...
funny guy.
Yeah. I think he's been that consistent number 2.5 player for Newcastle. He loves Isak. Isak loves him.
A lot of feelings in this one.
Yeah,
a lot of feelings.
It's out of the... Because I think Barnes is probably the smart answer. He has been on a great streak. He's probably the most informed player on Newcastle, so no doubt about that. But with Gordon coming back, he's played almost 30 minutes, 2 games in a row. Are they going to start him? And then that's where I think, to your point, Sean, he comes in for Barnes and not Murphy. Because, again, Murphy's been that kind of like joker card for them where he's kind of done everything. So I don't know. I think I'm going to go Murphy. I think that he's going to produce more than Mr. Harvey himself.
Give me the flip side, Dave.
I'm just going to go with the most informed guy on a team that needs to win. Like,
no feelings.
They do need to win.
Obviously, like Gordon has played, like in the 20s minutes the last 3 games. I don't have any like insider info on if Howe is going to start Gordon or Barnes on the left, but I Barnes has been so good that I'm willing to risk it that he starts again. Like you said, they play Ipswich, so they could be up 3-0 and he could take people out, but Barnes could very easily factor in on their goals. So I'm not going to overthink it because you can't really predict what he's going to do. They did just get smoked by Villa.
Yep.
So sometimes coaches make changes after they have, a poor team performance, but I'm willing to risk it because Barnes has just been so good.
Yeah, that's fair.
I like that. So if you watched our video earlier in the week when we did our free hit, you'll see that this discussion for us was not relevant because we didn't go with any of the midfielders. To us, if you're really interested in Newcastle this week, we went Pope with the goalie, we went Shar, Livermento, take your pick, and then we went Isak, right, with the forward going against Ipswich. You don't necessarily need to make the tough decision with the midfield. You can still get a lot of pieces of Newcastle without going in the midfield because me personally, I'm just scared of what's going to happen. Yeah, maybe Harvey Barnes is the right choice and he kills it. I just don't know, and I really don't want to blank this week. So, I'm just not super interested.
I don't blank any week.
I think both of them are obviously great players, and either of them can do very well. I just don't know what Eddie Howe's going to do this week.
Same.
Because it's not like Gordon's a bad player. Gordon was killing it before he got hurt.
He's a really good player.
He could easily just come in and be as good as either of them.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough decision. Hey, go with your gut, though.
Tough.
I think you go with your gut on this one out there. We can't give you the right answer. We can only give you, what our thoughts are.
Hey, worst case, one of us is right. So Fireside FPL gave you the right answer.
Yeah, we actually just picked both midfielders and said don't get any of them.
Yeah.
So we pretty much covered all our bases.
We hedged our bet.
You are
big
welcome.
time.
You are welcome.
Big time bet hedging.
It's when you give life suggestion, and there's that's just my opinion, though.
Just my opinion, though. Okay, that's it. We're not going to cover our team this week because we have our new segment that we're putting out on socials every week where Dave covers a team.
What are we
tells
calling
you-
it?
What do we want to call
Around the
it?
Fire with
Want
Dave.
to call it Around the Fire with Dave? Call it Around the...
Our beautiful centerpiece.
Yeah, Around the Fire with Dave. We dropped it last week. People seem to like it. We got a lot of good views on it, so we're going to drop that every week where Dave walks you through our team selection going into the week.
Curious to the glory, Dave.
So look out for that on Instagram. Look out for that on X. But
Twitter.
we are out of here. That's all we got. So like I just said, check us out on X. Check us out on Instagram. Find us anywhere you find podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. And Phil, let them know what it is.
It's free.
Super duper free.
I think that means it doesn't cost anything, but
Doesn't
I'm not
cost
sure.
a thing. And
I'm
we
not
really appreciate it. So yeah, leave a comment, leave a like. We love hearing from people. Like I said, hit us up Instagram, hit us up X,
Twitter.
and we'll be back here next week, looking back at Game Week 34, looking forward to Game Week 35.
That's
We're
how
getting close to
numbers work.
getting close to the end of the season, so it's getting exciting. But with that, see ya.
See you.
Bye.